Weiss, that's live for you there on Bloomberg TV and radio, live from Wilmington, Delaware, thanking the jury just a short time after we learned that the president's son, Hunter Biden, found guilty on all three felony counts, becoming the first child of a president of the United States to be found guilty of crimes. Interesting, no questions today, Kaylee, remembering it was just months ago that the special counsel was behind closed doors on Capitol Hill with being asked real questions about his authority and whether Joe Biden was interfering in this case, as Donald Trump has alleged, and his answer was consistently no, he was in control.
And he reiterated that to some extent in those remarks just now. He said he wants to thank Attorney General Garland for providing the support necessary to pursue their mission, assuring that we had the independence to pursue this prosecution. He definitely made sure to emphasize that at the end of his remarks, including his emphasis that no one in this country is above the law. He said Hunter Biden should be no more accountable than any other citizen of this same conduct.
We're going to bring in our panel, if that's is the panel set to go here? Rick Davis and Jeannie Shanzano are with us, Bloomberg Politics contributors, for their take on this. It's great to have you both with us here. Jeannie, now that you've heard from the special counsel your feelings on this day Hunter Biden is found guilty, and I'm asking you this from a political perspective. I don't want to turn either of you into legal analysts here, but this is important. There seems to be an equivalency in many minds between this case and that of the former president, Donald Trump, who's running for re-election. Do you see it that way?
To a certain extent, I mean, we are hearing that. I will tell you what comes top of mind for me amidst all of this stunning news that we've had in the last couple of weeks, but certainly today, is really the fact that, you know, the Trump campaign is having sort of machinations going on behind the scenes as to how they're going to respond to this. And I think this is important to underscore. He's been empathetic in the last week to this issue of addiction. We just heard the special counsel say this case wasn't about addiction. It was about lying on a form. But there's also the underreported reality here that this is a Second Amendment case, a case that many Second Amendment supporters feel that Hunter Biden can and should take to the Supreme Court and potentially win. And of course, I'm not clear as to why the president's team has him lined up today to go talk about gun prevention. It's just sort of this conflation of odd realities here that are creating a mishmash, and the Trump campaign issues a statement, pulls it back. So it's hard for both of these campaigns to respond to this, given all that it entails. But I do want to underscore the 2A community, very, very supportive of Hunter Biden on this, nothing to do with his father, but to do with the issue of the Second Amendment and the fact they think that this could expand access to guns, something that would be ironic if Hunter Biden takes that to the Supreme Court, given the fact where his father is right now and always has been politically on guns.
Yeah, and he quite literally today is at an Everytown for Gun Safety event. The split screen is pretty remarkable. Jeannie was mentioning the reaction from the Trump campaign. Rick, we got in a statement a quote, "This trial has been nothing more than a distraction from the real crimes of the Biden crime family." Of course, those crimes have not been fully borne out in a formal prosecution or a jury of peers finding them guilty of anything. That is just the case in this case where Hunter Biden was found guilty of these three crimes. How difficult is it for the Trump campaign to seize on this conviction? Is this actually potentially just difficult water to navigate, considering we are talking about addiction here, something that also has plagued Donald Trump's own family?
That's right. I'm glad you mentioned that, Kelly, because, you know, a lot of people don't realize that Donald Trump's brother, Fred Jr., died of alcohol addiction. And it's a issue that he doesn't talk openly about, but did, you know, after becoming president. And I think it was one of the most honest moments of the Trump presidency in 2017. So I'm sure that part of this informs you know, that opinion of the Trump campaign and Donald Trump himself. That being said, if they thought this could be exploited to hurt Joe Biden, I think they would. And I think that's why they're being cautious, because I don't think they see an opening in the exploitation. I'm sure they've pulled it. I'm sure Tony Fabrizio is sitting in there saying, be careful, guys. This is likely to blow back on you if you go after the sins of the son. And frankly, the Judiciary Committee under Jim Jordan has failed miserably at trying to connect the two and create a impeachment process for Joe Biden. So as you point out, nobody's been able to find the goods on the Biden crime family. And so I think this was a head nod in that direction, but I don't think it goes very far from here.
As we're talking politics here, Jeannie, and I know this stuff is very deeply personal for a lot of families, many of whom we're hearing from on social media, who can relate with the Bidens today. Is there an empathy vote? Is that part of this for the Biden campaign?
There could be. We haven't seen that show up in the polls yet. Of course, we're just an hour or two out of the conviction, so we may see that. But I'm reminded about the 2020 debate when one of the most important statements that Joe Biden made, the most remembered, if you will, after the debate, was the fact that he said, "I love my son," when it was brought up, and I support him, and he's struggling with addiction. That was something a lot of voters looked at him and said, we feel your pain, so to speak. We understand, because so many of us, including, as Rick just mentioned, the former president, have dealt with this issue. One other thing we should keep in mind as we think of the politics, and you were just talking to Nicole about this prior to the special counsel statement, was on this issue of the pardon. The president said, "I will not pardon my son." What he hasn't said, as far as I know, and I'm curious for one of the great Bloomberg reporters to ask, does that include commuting a sentence? Because he can pardon, he can also commute. And depending on what happens in the sentencing phase in this and or the tax case, would he consider commuting that sentence? I don't think he would, and I don't think he should, but he hasn't, as far as I know, gone on the record of the difference between the pardon and the commutation. And he could constitutionally do both.
It's an excellent point, Jeannie. I wonder if that is a question he may end up being asked in a presidential debate in this cycle, keeping in mind that the first one is just 16 days away, scheduled for June 27th in Atlanta, Rick. And as we consider what the tenor of that debate may be like, how these various legal troubles plaguing both the Biden family through Hunter Biden and Donald Trump through his myriad legal cases that he is facing may come up, does this conviction today take away a talking point from Donald Trump about the weaponization of a justice system, considering that very same system just convicted the son of a president?
Yeah, he has to be careful. It's not an easy attack now, because the parry on this by Biden could be very powerful. Could be that, if there was any political manipulation at the Justice Department, wouldn't I have done it for my own son? That could be a big moment in the debate. And so I think Donald Trump has to be extraordinarily cautious, and even because he's got sentencing after that. And so the last thing you want to do is use a national debate to work the judge in this case, in a way that is going to have the judge basically say, look, obviously there's no remorse for Donald Trump. Let's put him in the Hooskow. Rikers Island is not a bad place to spend the weekend. So I think that it's a very treacherous issue for Donald Trump now. It was kind of a free option for the last year. He could say and do pretty much whatever he wanted to. Got a couple of fines for breaking gag orders, which were totally irrelevant. And now it's actually going to potentially hurt himself. And that's when I think you'll see Donald Trump's self-interest come to the fore and probably temper anything he says about these legal issues.
Jeannie, I want you to go a little bit further down the road you were just driving here. Whether it's a commutation or a pardon, if Joe Biden changes his mind, how does that play publicly here? If we're looking at what appears to be a benign reading on the campaign trail now, what would an action like that mean?
Very, very tough for Joe Biden, because of course he has publicly said he won't pardon. He would have to go back on his word, and that never sort of sits well with people, because it's considered a lie. Now, he could try to explain it away. This is my son, but that would play right into the hands of this two-tier justice system that the Republicans keep talking about. And of course, if we go further down the line, imagine if Donald Trump wins and Joe Biden is a lame duck. Does, legacy reasons he may care, but otherwise he may say, I am going to make a really tough sort of Sophie's choice, if you will, between my duties as a parent and my love for my son and my duties as the president of the United States. Now that I'm a lame duck, I'm going to think about seriously pardoning or commuting. There's no good option here. Again, I think most of us would empathize that this is a tough decision, But how he manages that, I think, is going to be fascinating to watch. And of course, we've got the tax trial coming up in LA, and people are going to be a lot less forgiving, I think, on that than they are on this gun issue. So that is going to complicate things further for the president.
Yeah, especially considering the timing with that scheduled for September, where we are much closer to the vote on November 5th. I also want to talk about how this reflects not just on Hunter Biden and the Biden family, but the Department of Justice. We heard Special Counsel David Weiss in his remarks just moments ago, specifically calling out Attorney General Merrick Garland, thanking him for providing them the resources and the independence to bring this prosecution forward. But Merrick Garland also, as soon as this week, could be held in contempt of Congress, at least on the floor of the House. That's something that they are pursuing, and has been last week before testifying before a chamber in the House, and in a Washington Post op-ed today defending the Justice Department. The op-ed published said, in recent weeks, we have seen an escalation of attacks that go far beyond public scrutiny, criticism, and legitimate and necessary oversight of our work. They are baseless, personal, and dangerous. Rick, how do you think Hunter Biden now being convicted may alter the way in which Congress pursues these questions around the Justice Department? Can you hold Merrick Garland in contempt over her audio tapes if he did just allow all of this to happen to an unpopular president's son?
Yeah, I think it's arguable that there's been open warfare between the House Judiciary Committee, Jim Jordan, and the Department of Justice since Jordan became chairman. And this is very unhealthy for our democracy and for the legal system. Jordan went all over he could late last year, bring Weiss, the special prosecutor, into a hearing in the Justice Committee. First time anybody can remember a special counsel actually testifying to Congress before there's any trial at all and any prosecution. So it broke a lot of ground, new ground, and not positive ground. I mean, that was the beginning of a very bad cycle. And it now, as you say, has presented itself here. I think this verdict completely undermines Jim Jordan's entire premise, which is the Department of Justice is cooking the books for Hunter Biden and in reverse going after actively prosecuting Donald Trump. So right now, I think it makes Jordan look bad. I think it undermines the ability to go after a subpoena. I think there'll be Republicans who say, why are we talking about this? This is not something that we want to go into the election year to discuss. This is fundamentally the problem with the right wing of the Republican Party. They want to go down swinging, even if that means losing. And the vast majority of Republicans in the House want to be in the majority next year and continue to make policy changes they think are important. So this is as much a conflict within the Republican caucus as it is in between the Department of Justice and Jim Jordan.
Isn't that type of overreach, Jeannie, the best thing that could happen to the Biden campaign?
It is. It's one of the best things that could happen to them. But I'm listening to Rick and I'm agreeing with him personally. But then I'm thinking back to what Jim Comer said when the conviction came out. And he's the chair of the Oversight and Accountability Committee. And what did he say? You hear them saying that the DOJ tried to give Biden a sweetheart plea deal that was smoked out by a federal judge. Today is a step forward in accountability, he says. But until the DOJ investigates everyone involved in the corrupt, family, I can't remember the exact words, Biden family, that generated like almost $20 million, according to his account, then the DOJ is going to continue to be in the pocket, so to speak, for the big guy, Joe Biden. Now, some of that is by memory, so I didn't get his exact words right, but you could hear the tone, which is that this is not going to put this to rest, at least according to Jim Comer and that committee, apparently. And they are saying this only happened because the federal judge, smoked out the sweetheart deal and made Hunter Biden go on trial. So this is where we stand. And I think they're going to continue running down this road as fast as they can. They can't get Joe Biden yet for an impeachment, but they're darn sure going to keep going after Hunter and the rest of the family.
Yeah, it's great to point out this statement from Chairman Comer. Certainly, we've seen a lot of statements flying thick and fast today, including the statement that we got from the president. But Jeannie, do we also need to actually hear from him on this, not in written form? Should he say something to address address cameras, address the media. We just got an update and guidance from the White House. He's going to go to Wilmington this afternoon after his remarks here in Washington at that Everytown event. He'll be in Wilmington, Delaware, presumably going to the side of his son. Does he need to say much more?
I think he should. I am not surprised he is going to be with Hunter on this very tough day for his son, but I think he should say exactly what their statement said in his own words. I love my son. Jill and I support him. We're proud of him for his recovery. We also respect the justice system and the jury verdict, and we will support him as he continues to look forward to appeals. And I am going to go, spend some time with my family in private. I think all of us as human beings could respect a statement like that, and I think he should say it. I don't know if he will. I think if he does, it'll probably be like with helicopters spinning around, so it's hard to hear him. But I think he should try to say it and get that word out.
All right, Jeannie Shanzano and Rick Davis, Bloomberg Politics contributors, thank you so much for joining us on what is another historic day in American political history. The first time ever that a child of a sitting president has been convicted of crimes, Joe. And of course, this is less than 2 weeks after the former president was also convicted of a number of crimes. Just a remarkable moment that we are in.
That's for sure. You're going to hear a lot of talk about equivalency and a lot of folks who wonder why we're talking about this so much. And we're hearing from all of them on the terminal and on social media. But we're trying to do the news as it happens here, as we always promise, from an unbiased point of view here on Bloomberg. To that end, we should get up to date on world and national headlines.
Yeah, speaking of, Nancy Lyons has that for us in our 99.1 newsroom here in Washington. Hey, Nancy.